transportation, so I have to, join Uber and Lyft due to them beating me up so bad. Seriously, it's unbelievable. My business has been cut in half, completely in half. So, today, I dropped a client off in Miami, and I go to Fort Lauderdale Airport, which I've been going for the past 5 days, right? So I turn on my app, and I pulled in the airport, and the guy goes, "You need to leave now." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Is a conflict of interest. You're a transportation service and Uber and Lyft." I go, "So you're telling me that I cannot sell hot dogs, potato chips, and french fries? Is that what you're saying to me?" And he says, "No, there's a conflict of interest. You need to leave now." I said, "No, you're gonna have to tow me, call the cops, because my app is on and I'm an Uber driver right now." So they called the cops. Escorted me. Yeah, the Fort Lauderdale Airport. They escorted me to the parking place.
Is that our guys?
They escorted me to the parking place, and then they bring out this thing out, like a law. And they're trying to say that because I'm transportation and Uber and Lyft, there's a conflict of interest
Robert?
now. So I do not park where the Uber and Lyft is at. I have to
Robert,
park
Julio,
outside. So,
and Rico.
but in the Uber and Lyft, when you go there's a zone, and when you turn on your app, you have to be inside of that box. Okay, so inside of that box is where I was supposed to park. So the guy was like, "No, you need to get the hell out of here now." And I said, "I'm not leaving." And finally, I went off on them. I said, "Dude, you guys do not know what you're talking about. Okay, because once." Oh, you guys are-
Should we tell them?
So I said, as soon as I turn my app on, I'm considered now a TNC company. As soon as I turn it on.
Alright, so Roberto, you're on, just chat me here. Just give me a message so I know that that's you. I just see one person logged on.
Dude,
Okay,
I was-
good deal.
I was like, bro, I couldn't believe it.
I don't know if anybody wants to press those or not. If anyone wants.
Uber said they're not supposed to do
Sign
that.
in sheet, pass it.
Can you get the law?
Yeah, sign-in sheets right here.
Yeah.
We got Roberto joining us through YouTube, so we'll check him
When they
in.
call you, go, I don't know no Victor.
We'll log him in. Roberto.
So in the,
I thought we were
on the
doing
law-
session
the
two
law says
questions,
so.
we were breaking up right away.
You have
No.
to
We're finishing session two.
No, session 3.
come.
We're gonna review,
Ask her the question.
week 2.
Every,
I'm gonna explain it here.
300 cars.
I'm still confused. from that.
You're saying that each and every individual.
All right, guys, so this is what we're doing. Remember, we're not watching the video today. So everybody should have at least reviewed session 3. Everybody should have watched the video on session 3. We actually watched it last week, but I asked you guys to go back home and watch it again to answer the discussion questions, the group discussion questions. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna split up into those 2 groups. Keith's group is gonna go on the far end, and then Gary will just stay right here with his group, and then we'll kind of swing in tight. And then what we'll do is we're gonna go over your answers to week 2. Okay, so all your answers that you answered as far as session 2, your homework, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on week 2. In other words, let me see your book. Okay.
Page 18.
Page 18 through
Yep.
yeah, to page 30, okay? That's what we're gonna be discussing in the next hour, okay? So, how we wanna do this is, Keith will be facilitating, Gary here, and basically, you don't have to go question by question. Whatever question popped out at you that spoke to you with you doing your homework, because I would think everybody did the homework, everybody answered it, something there popped out at you and said, wow, this really, I resonated with this really touched home, this really impacted me. And whatever that conversation you were having with God over the course of that week, that's what we want you to share with the rest of the men here tonight in your group. And we're gonna do that for the next hour, okay? And then at 8 o'clock, we're gonna go into the group discussion questions. And what we'll do is we'll come back together at 9 o'clock here on this table and go over the group discussion as a whole.
Or at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Okay, so you have, so, yeah, so we have 45 minutes to go over your week 2.
You have grass seeds on your eyelids.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Other eyelids,
I wouldn't doubt it.
it's still there.
Still there, distracting.
That's from sleeping too much.
See, looks like lagaña.
Sorry,
booger.
Roberto. Roberto's looking at me here.
He's the only one that sees it.
Roberto, somebody else is looking at me here. Somebody else just joined us on chat. Who? Rico, maybe Rico. All right, here we go. So go ahead and split up to your groups and I'll flip this around. So we
Is that
can,
what that guy said? Here we go.
here we go.
How do we know whose group we're in?
Here we go.
Here we go.
See what I'm saying? You got it, huh?
How do we know what group we're in?
Usually this group on this side, whoever says on this side is with Gary, and
Okay.
that group with Eric.
It's your first time here?
I'm usually with Keith.
No, it's the first, it's my, this is what, I missed the first night, and then the second, and the third, something like that.
Oh, you did?
He managed the first 2 weeks.
Bicycle
Oh,
safety.
okay. Do you don't remember who you were the first time?
I wasn't here the first night.
Oh, okay.
I need something to brace the, no, we put it on that side. We're gonna move down here, Chuck. Put it on that side. Let Victor figure it out. Victor, just prop this up so it's.
Yeah.
And then, ven pa' acá, Victor. Anybody want these chairs? Come over here. Anybody? The one that had surgery on is fine. It's the other one that's. I'm having surgery Tuesday. Don't put it too far, because then they won't be able to hear us. Hi, Gary, you're up.
All right, so we're on page 18 of the personal exercise that we did on session.
I'm really not, him. If he doesn't talk loud.
No, I don't, I can, I've been known to. Scare the hair off all my kids. Going off what Mike said, and one thing that had stood out to me, or that was one of the easiest enjoyable things to answer, was in boyhood. And it says, describe 2 or 3 boyhood memories that have had a lasting effect on you. And it was, you know, in the dialogue above, it wasn't nothing that was specific. So what immediately stood out to me was, you know, every year I used to go camping with my family up in North Carolina. You know, we'd start down here and then make our way up 95 and pull into all the state parks until we finally got to our final destination. And that's where I feel like I learned most about just stuff, you know, whether it's going into museums or the state parks or reading everything on those signs, you know, as you walk around. And just, you know, like on hand, being able to actually touch things and learn like that, you know, that was very rewarding for me. And then I had also at a young age got into scouts and had done that all the way up till, you know, 16, 17 years old until I finished all that. And I mean, just the amount of, you know, being around those men and everybody with the same agenda in regards to, you know, promotions and bettering yourself and doing stuff for the community and working with the church. It was just, you know, looking back on now, I kind of feel like I was took it for granted, you know, not realizing what it was all teaching me and making me, you know, anywhere from fishing to first aid to, you know, canoeing. To
The Boy Scouts?
just everything. I mean, it really changed my life. And, you know, so those, you know, in boyhood, that's really what had just changed me, and just being around my father, and he, you know, and it's funny because this week, for the past couple of weeks, my wife had a baby, and I've been taking my 5-year-old to work with me. And it's really not what I want to do, but I know it's really helping her out. But at the same time, like, all these lessons that this kid is getting, you know, I own a landscape company, so I'm going from house to house and stuff like that, and he's learning, you know, we had needed to leave a job site clean, and he's learning to plant, you know, he's putting in like little plants for me. The kid's only, you know, he's spreading mulch. I mean, it's just, and, you know, I'm turning that headache that it would be to bring him, and knowing that it's gonna slow me down, to like, wow, I'm never gonna get this opportunity again. And, you know, he's gonna remember this forever.
Yeah, it's
You know,
good for
because
him.
I didn't think about that stuff that my dad was doing to me till just this past couple of weeks. It was like, wow, my dad used to have me, he was in the marine business, he used to have me go and crawl in these really small fiberglass, hot areas, you know, to go tighten the bolt on something, you know, because he couldn't get a wrench in there. It's like, just send Junior down in there, he'll do it. And, you know, now I know, why I was doing it, and the lessons that I was learning. So that, you know, that part of boyhood was just great for me. You know, that's what immediately stood out in this session.
You don't realize it at the time, but
Yeah.
you're actually getting it.
Exactly. It's kind of like, you know,
A lot of time passes.
your parents always tell you, you know, yo, you just wait till you're my age, or you wait till you have your own kids, and then it happens. You're like, oh, yeah. So that kind of like just happened to me.
I mean, in week 2, what touched me the most was session 23, page 23. I actually posted that on Facebook. It touched me so then I'm just pulling on my Facebook page here. And it said here, Truett Count, the founder of Chick-fil-A, wrote a book. It's better to build boys than mend men. Without even opening it, you know the book has a significant manhood message. Start training and learning early. A boy needs to grow up with a keen awareness that God created him to be a man, a godly man. The sooner a boy gets this reality planted into his heart, the clearer his path to manhood would be. So I posted that on Facebook, and I got it was like 90 people that actually hit like on it. But then I added in addition, I added the following page, which was page 27, growing up. And what I put on there was the supplemental reading of exercises for session 2, growing up. I put one has to do what he or she has to do, not necessarily what they want to do. Those were my additional thoughts as I was reading the study, is how many times we do things that we have to do, not because we want to do. You know, like going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, I go to work? Yeah. Not because I want to, this is because I have to, right? So I highlighted, in growing up, I actually highlighted in yellow. This is when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child, and when I became a man, I gave up childish ways. 1 Corinthians 13:11. And I highlighted that because so many times we actually want to go back to that childish mindset. Like, you know what? I don't want to do anything today. I just want to chill out here on the sofa. Don't leave me alone. I know I got 100,000 things of responsibility about it, but you know what? The hell with that. I just want to just veg. I want to go into my nothing box and have no responsibilities. And we want to dive into that childhood mindset.
Absolutely.
You know, so many times. And sometimes we overdo it. We overdo it to the point that we put ourselves in a predicament of having arguments with our wives because we had honeydews that we didn't get done, or ourselves, bills that we needed to pay that had I not chilled and done that little extra side job, I probably would have made the money that I needed to pay that bill versus procrastinating. So that childish mindset of my selfish behavior, I'm constantly in battle with that, pushing through to not fall into that easy way of living. So, and then my goal is always to continue to encourage the men that are around me to do the same thing. You know, because of what we read earlier, right? What I read earlier, which said, what was it that he said? Page 13. He said,
23.
oh, 23.
Yes.
It says, it's better to build boys than to mend men. You know, for the last 14 years, or now I won't say 14 years, but the last 10 years, I've been mending men. I've been helping men get out of their struggles and their marriage crisis and their situations in their relationships. And it's really a hard job to mend men. And that's what he's trying to say here. Don't start your kids off on the wrong path. Start them off on the right path so that down the road, they're not meeting another man like me trying to mend them. On the contrary, if you raising them in the ways of God, they're going to be, you know, already
Already built,
tools,
yeah,
the
already built to a
resources.
certain point, yes.
Okay, so that was me for week 2. That one that hit me the hardest.
Okay, I got one on, in the boyhood section, one of my favorite times of life. I could say my question number 5, reflecting on your boyhood, name a couple of men that had the best influence on you. I had 2 uncles, both of them, one was my uncle Bill King, the other was Bill Knight, one from my mom's side, one from my dad's side of the family, and coincidentally, both of them, they both taught me a lot. One taught me mechanical things, how to rebuild engines, how to, you know, do body work, how to repair things that I didn't know anything about, and started with like taking apart my RM50 dirt bike. I disassembled it completely. My dad goes, "What are you thinking? Call your uncle." He comes over and we put it back together. We got it going, and made it work. It was fine. No extra bolts, but we, you know, it was just those kind of things. Kind of, my uncles kind of forced my dad into paying attention to me in that way. And when I was young, my other uncle taught me to hunt and fish, and taught me how to do projects and stuff around the house, like construction work and stuff like that. Basically, anything that needed to be done, he was involved in. He would just jump on it, you know. He would never say, "I don't know how to do that." He just would figure it out. And that ended up bringing me to a point where
She's trying to get the movie going, and she needs a password or something. Maybe you can share your phone to her hotspot's not working. You think you need it? Go get it.
it's on. So what it ended up being was learning all these things from my uncle about hunting, fishing, and being responsible in certain ways. With my other uncle, he was very loving and supportive. I got a lot of, I felt like I was wanted and appreciated from them. And my dad, he didn't really know how to handle things. He didn't have a father figure that was a good example, so to speak. So he didn't really know how to make things right with me. And as I got older, he started to realize it was more about spending time with me than anything. And so from the time I was about maybe 10 years old till I was about 16, we spent a lot of time together doing the same things, hunting, fishing, and, you know, mechanical things together. And had made a huge impact on me. You know, the mechanical aptitude that I had and you know, wanting to take on a project that's a challenge kind of took me to where I am today. I'm a mechanical contractor, so I think that, you know, what they poured into me was really priceless. And it was a choice that they made, not something that they had to do. You know, uncles, you know, an uncle's got a choice. You can either be part of it or not, you know, and that's what I can be thankful for in that I had them.
I had some cool uncles growing up. One of them was like you said, Mr. Fix-It. And the other one was just what the kindest human being, you know, take you over as cool as, you know, forget. And just taught you how to respect people when you talk to them, and just by his own mannerism and the way things should be. You know, and that's, you can't buy that. It's priceless. So that was big. You know, it was really big.
So a video, nothing related, but about the puppy that suffered from anxiety and he would hide, and he got into with other dogs, and the other dogs would like act in front of him, and he slowly started acting like the other dogs and normalize himself. So the same thing with boys. If you surround the boy with men that, good example, man.
Character.
That's is better than 1,000 people who can speak to them or tell them. Sample. My father never smoked. I saw him drunk maybe this time. So he was a good example.
He's talking up.
That's it.
That's it? So you're up, next?
Oh, well, I guess for me, it was, you know, I had a tough upbringing with my father. He was never around. He always worked. Made probably about $35,000 a year, taking care of 6 family members. My mom, you know, never worked too, but I just never had that relationship with him like that. I think and I could recall the relationship that I had with him was probably around in high school when I was playing baseball. And I remember always blaming him. I'm not the man that I should have been if you would have helped me out when I was a younger kid and brought me up to these baseball games. And, you know, there were other things that he were doing, which I knew, you know, but I couldn't control the fact that the way my father was. You know, so you can't control that. So I just did, you know, I only looked up to Benji Wimbley, which was a guy that I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, that he was my baseball coach, and he was the same age as ours, and he gave up his life to help us out and talk to us and encourage us. And then the man that lived across the street named Tato, which he had 3 boys. And you know they were the family in the whole street that had the boat, the dirt bikes, you know, the jet skis. So they did all the mechanic work. So I got to learn from them all of that. But I never learned anything from like my parents, like my father, generally like that. Uncles, I didn't have them like that. You know, I just didn't have them. And in reality, I believe that reading the Word changed me a little bit more than who I was. You know, because before I even read the Word, I would say that I will go by things that I only knew. Like everybody else. Right. That's the only thing I knew. So, but then by reading the Word taught me a lot more. Gave me more like sensibility of things, you know, just understanding situations, understanding things that we go through in life, especially one of the biggest, hardest things that I always had was understanding another person. That their thinking is not like mine. Their, you know, their perspective was not like mine. So that's one thing that I had to learn through, even through the word, you know, and I learned that actually, which I'm still having a hard time, through with my ex-wife, you know, because I, you know, my last marriage was a real big battle, like verbally, mentally, physically, you know, for, you know, doing things around the house that I had to do everything. You know, I was the cook, the cleaning, the folding clothes, washing clothes. You know, I didn't have that woman like to help me. So I had to become the person that I believe that I am now, the father, you know, trying to be the leader, you know, and doing all that sorts of stuff. But I think it was more a turnaround for me, I would say about 3.5 years ago, you know, on that level of understanding and being more of the fatherly father that I'm supposed to be, and the husband that I'm supposed to be. Even so, the things that I did as a boy, you know, there were some things I learned a lot of stuff from Mike too. You know, one of my biggest things was my phone. I used to hide a lot of things from my wife, and it's one thing that I knew that I wasn't set free from. I wasn't free from that stuff, so that would hold me back. It would hold my togetherness with her. It was holding everything back. So, you know, I'm not gonna say because of my phone, and I can probably say it because of my phone and some of the things that I'm doing, that I believe the relationship that I'm having now is going a little bit better than the way it was before with anybody, and even just with myself. You know, just keeping it real and the truth to myself, knowing that, you know, there was some things that I had in here that you know, I couldn't even, you know, give it back. You know, that's the way I was, you know, and now it's like, you know the code, you go right ahead. You know, so that's one thing that I learned from growing up from that stage to this stage where I'm at now. And I just, to me, it's just like me being free from that. Me being free from all the setbacks and holdbacks that I'm having in here. You know, so a couple of things I learned.
Going off what you said about your dad, where, because most of us growing up, our dads probably worked and our moms probably stayed home.
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line in regards to, you know, them being the breadwinners and providing for the family, but not spending time with us?
Well,
I mean, how much? Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a sense of like regret from that relationship that you don't have for him, that you didn't have with him?
oh yeah.
So there is. Okay, so but where do we cut them some slack where they're trying to do everything they can as a husband? You know,
there was
sacrifice of being absentee in their own kids and wives' lives just to provide for family.
I'll give you that explanation now. Looking at it now, in the aspect of how I'm growing up and how I've been reading the Word, you know, there were some things that my dad did that he shouldn't have been doing. You know, he played a lot of cards, he gambled a lot, he drank a lot, he hung out with all his friends all the time. So even like me thinking about now, like there's some times when I spend time for myself that I should be spending time with my son,
Right.
and my son don't want to spend time with me due to the separation that we had. You know, from back then, I can clearly understand that. So that's one of the things I'm trying to say. I had to understand, even with my son, that, man, you know, I was never ever there the whole time for him. And here I am trying to do the best I can to try to be there with him, but he's not accepting me that way because of his growing up now. He's becoming to be this boy and this man or whatever. He's moving on. But he sees, you know, this one thing that it's been 3 years, 3.5 years, I've never prayed with my whole family. And I've been praying for the past 3 years with my whole family. So that's one thing that I'm teaching my son. You know, the value of, you know, respecting God and having that togetherness. And even with my 5-year-old, you know, when my 5-year-old, when we're gonna sit down and eat, you know, she's always want to pick on her food first, and I always say to her, no, don't pick on it, we gotta pray first. So then she'll be like, come on, Dad, let's pray, you know, and she wants to eat right away. So there's some things that I know that by doing some of these small little steps, it's actually helping my children out, so. But it's something that, you know, that wasn't taught to me when I was a kid, and this is something that I'm learning now through this.
Anybody else have anything for D1, boyhood?
Yeah, and I kind of agree with the Boys and Girls Club and Boy Scouts that helped me out a lot growing up. You know, because I, you know, like I said, I didn't have that time with my dad, you know, like in reality to go and start up a fire or go camping with him. Never went camping with him,
Well,
you
some
know.
dads don't have.
Never went fishing.
Yeah, some dads don't have that
I
knowledge,
never
but when you're
went.
put in that, those groups.
I was a Boy Scout, I was an Eagle Scout. I think I went with my dad camping one time.
No,
He was not involved on Scout at all.
No, I
But the
didn't.
neighbors, dad, and the leaders, you know, made me also, so. it's
Yeah,
not
my
only-
dad was involved in that, but, you know, like to defend, you know, any father, they might not have those skills. And I think I talked about that last week,
He didn't have the
So-
skills.
you know,
And he didn't
but there's
have the
still no
time.
reason he can't, well, yeah, that's why I asked, where do you draw the line? Like, if I'm working from 6 AM to 7 PM, you know, at what point does a dad cut some slack because he's just trying, I mean, it's a different story, like Vic said, if he's coming home and he's like going out and drinking and going out gambling,
Yeah.
that's on him.
That was on him, and
But where does that, you know, I mean, still as a dad, you're like, man, here I am, I'm busting my butt for my family, but yet I'm not getting to spend any time with them. And some of those kids, you know, they might not realize that till adulthood,
Right.
realizing that, yeah, I had no relationship with my dad, but he did everything he could to make sure we had what we needed at the house. So it's a tough situation, man.
it is, and I personally think just, you know, this is one thing that I told my son. I remember telling him this. I said, Julius, I don't care if it's 1 hour spending with me. 1 hour. 1 hour. You don't even want, I can't even teach you how to tie a fishing knot because you don't want to come. And how many times I've asked you to come, you know,
Well, you
so,
gotta find common interests.
yeah, well,
I mean, even if it's playing video games, at least you're doing it with them,
I
you know?
I kind of like, I don't like that in a way,
Well,
in a
it's just the
sense.
thing, sometimes you might, if that quality time is important with you, he'll see that, he's like, damn, I know my dad hates whatever it is,
Is that your son?
you know,
Yeah, it's my son, he's 23, he's living with me.
yeah, find that.
I just
It doesn't even
just
have-
brought him in. He came to my life when he was 20 years old. His mother died, so I had to receive him into my. But and then in between the 20 years old and 5, I left them. But I was, you know, a part of them the whole time. But and then I also had the mother that was blocking the relationship between me and him. So there was some things that I didn't have really control over,
Yeah.
and there was some things that I just had to do. Like, you know, like I probably mentioned this 100 times. I would have to call my mother-in-law. Hey, I'm flying in this weekend. Can you pick up the kids and I take them and I can take them from you on Sunday? You know, that's the type of relationship that I have with my children, because it was a difference of, you know, not understanding things. That, you know, we're not together, and I feel that I'm leading almost in that direction now with my new family, with my old family, with Adriana. That Trinice is not understanding what's the most important thing here between us. It's not us, it's the baby, and we also have to respect each other in every aspect. And we're not. I mean, I try as much as I can, but the attacks always come, and it's just like I can't control it sometimes. You know.
Yeah, Larry, on day 3, Larry, what stood out on you on day 3? I mean, if you wanna read that verse on 25. Page 5.
Philippians 2, 3, and 4.
Do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others.
So in that whole day three, what stood out to you?
On the listing 2 or 3 lessons, a young man needs to learn along the way to becoming an honorable man. Hard work, earnings, or rewards you will prosper from. If it comes easy, it won't last. That was one of the big things that I learned, you know. Basically, anything that's hard work is fulfilling. Honesty is always the best, even if it hurts others or yourself. Sometimes, you know, some of the things we would learn is, as a young man, would be to either withhold the whole truth, because maybe it doesn't get you in trouble, or just tell it how it is. And I got to a point when I was about 16 years old that I had been lying to my mom over and over and over. And I just, one day, something snapped inside of me, and I go, you know what? I'm done. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Every single thing, I'm gonna tell you 100% the truth. You're gonna have to accept it. It doesn't mean you're gonna have to like it, but you're gonna have to accept it. And the first time that I told the truth, I got beat up pretty bad. My mom was like Rocky on me, you know. I had to like push her back a little bit and try to dodge, but I told her basically the whole truth and nothing but the truth about what I was doing, where I was going, and just let it be at that. And then I ran the consequences. You know, I got in a little trouble from that, and
But why did you decide to tell the truth?
I got frustrated. I got to a point where, I don't know if my hormones were out of balance or what, but I was very angry at the world, and I was so tired of being in trouble for lying. She was nailing me. Every time I said something, she had somebody, God was showing her things that nobody else could know.
Sounds like my wife.
Yeah. And it was like, there was another set of eyes out there somewhere, just shining the light on me, you know? And I figured I can't get away from this woman. She's just gonna haunt me until I fess up. So I just fessed up, and then I felt so much better when I did. But it kind of disturbed our relationship for a little while, I felt like, but then in the long run, it got better, because now there were no secrets about what I was doing at that time. Now, it boils down to, the third thing I wrote was, trust. It's easily broken, you know, and it's very hard to earn. And that's one of the lessons that I could say that at that age, that adolescence age, is very important for a young man to know or learn if they haven't by that point.
I'm upset that I left my book at home because I had such good stuff written down. But I know that on page 26.
Well, does anybody else have anything else for 5? Because those are some good,
Yeah,
you know, those are some good points that we can all, like
absolutely.
I wrote down what Larry said about, you know, if it's easy, it's not worth it.
Mhm.
I put serving others before yourself, you know, keep your promises, and respect others regardless if they deserve it. And there's a laundry list, and I'm sure everybody could, you know, chime in and add a few, but I think, you know, there's a question, number 5 is an important question, and I also think,
5 on page 25?
number 20, number 7, on page 20, number 7, these are also good, questions, you know, that everybody can just add to the,
We're gonna read them out because
add to the
so
basket.
guys can hear you online.
Well, does anybody have anything else for number 5 for, you know, key lessons a young man needs to learn along his way becoming an honorable man? Because there's so many, you know, what stands out to you guys? You know, morally, and
I think family, you know, being family oriented, is big. Even like seeing, even in my family, like when I see that my sisters and brothers are not together, enjoying weekend together, I think that's big. You know, it shows value to younger kids that, you know, family comes first and being with friends. You know.
I think what you said, serving, makes you an honorable man. That's one.
And that's probably the hardest one for anybody is to serve. You know, especially if we're raised and we're so far into our selfishness and self-centeredness that why am I gonna go the
Yeah.
only weekend that I have off? I'm gonna go
And help
deliver
somebody,
turkeys.
or whatever.
Let them deliver turkey to me, you know? So it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people to give up their time to serve. And you know, I've raised my kids doing the turkey thing at Christ Fellowship. As a family, we've gone over there, and we've always found it very fulfilling. My kids still talk about it. Hey, when are we gonna do that again? And my son's already 30 years old, and my other one's 21, and they still talk about how fun that was as a family to serve those meals. You know, so if we can do that, more of that, that'd be.
I was in first or second grade. Our teachers told us to bring a gift. And that day we went to the poorest part of Puerto Rico. It's called El Fanguito, where it's like houses on stilts, and it's mangrove and all the feces, and there's no running water, no sewage, no nothing. And I remember walking, smelling, seeing as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever I was, with the gift, and seeing the kids, it's the first time I thought how fortunate I was where I lived at that age. Not many kids think like, can think or realize how fortunate they are.
I don't get to see it.
Yeah. So, that always stayed with me as a childhood memory that affected me.
I saw an accident this morning on Seminole Pratt. A high school kid, girl crashed into the rear end of another car. And the one that crashed, she was driving a Mercedes. And she was like crying, and the girl that she hit was a black girl, and the black girl was hugging the white girl that was driving the Mercedes, and she was like weeping, dying, but it was nice to see how the other girl was comforting her. It's okay. But just to think about it, this girl, a high school kid driving a Mercedes
What's
to
wrong
high
with
school.
that picture? That's an ultimate
going on-
responsibility that
it's
should
going
never
on
be put on
American
any high
Heritage.
school kid.
I mean, the only thing I could think of, the only rational thing I could think of why the child's driving a Mercedes, the parent wants her to drive a tank that's safe. A strong enough car that if she did get in an accident, she'd be safe in it. Maybe that's the only rational reason, other than having a lot of money and budget on their daughter.
That's probably what it was.
Most likely.
Yeah.
If it's a new Mercedes, that's.
It looks pretty
Oh, it was a
Mercedes,
hand-me-down.
could be the only-
Yeah.
It looks pretty
Yeah,
good.
this was last year's, like, just bought me a new one.
Brand new of the year, but it was top.
Oh, I love driving by American Heritage, seeing all the Hyundais and Porsches and it's crazy. What was the other one you said? Or did I say?
You said number 7.
Page 20. This could go into our little basket of goodies. Boys need to be taught and trained. List 3 to 5 life principles a boy should learn before he moves into his teen years. So it could almost could piggyback on what we had already said.
You should learn to respect your elders, and by that point, you should have that down pat.
That's a good one, there, Chuck.
That-
Respect others and authority.
Also
That's a
share-
good one there,
Also sharing.
I was
That is a hard thing.
I was talking about that. I was talking about that. We kind of lost that. I think America lost that.
Sure.
That respecting the elders.
Or authority in general.
We're talking. I remember that when I was growing up. We're talking.
Kids are to be seen and
Wait
not
a
heard.
second, right.
That's what I heard.
I remember all those things. That's huge.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gone too.
and it's gone, and it's really gone from our kids. And, even, I'm seriously, I was just talking about this like 2 days ago with this lady. Because she was talking about her daughter's daughter, that the mother hit her from behind, hit her in the behind, and she went to school and told on her mother, and then she also said that my mother burnt me, but it was a lie from the kid. And they got investigated, people came over and all that stuff, and I said, well, in reality, it's pretty much an agenda, what they're really doing. Because if you look at the way, even like, I remember my son was telling me one time, he says, I got this card from this man. If you hit me, I can call him.
It's not this.
And that right there, I remember arguing with my ex-wife about that they were taking our privilege away to discipline our own children. I remember arguing with, I just came back right now, I remember arguing with her because of that card. And then the other thing was when they were forcing him to go to the Marines. They were scouting him at the age of whatever it was, and he was being fed all this stuff, and he wasn't really focusing on what he was supposed to do. But he was being, I want to go to the Marine, I want to do all this stuff, but he wasn't focusing on what he was supposed to do. Yeah, it was huge. So that's big.
My mom used to come in with the rolling pin and put it through the wall. So, and show us the rolling pin. We had a pizza oven.
Robert or Rico, if you guys want to share anything, just type it up and I'll share with the guys what you guys are saying. Rico said, respect elders and respect girls.
Yes.
Don't cheat.
Yeah,
That's what Rico said.
yeah.
Don't cheat.
Part of that respect comes from being around elders, because kids nowadays, they are not around elders. The grandmas and grandpas are living in another state, or they're in a home somewhere, or they're divorced and they're, different. So it's,
That's why I always said, one thing that I always said this with my family. We need to stick together. I'll never forget the day when I said, I think it was my aunt's funeral, when I went up to the podium for the first time ever speaking in front of her funeral, and I remember saying, this is really not a good time for family members to get together. We should all begin together at least once a month. We have people live in the Bronx, New York, and like 30, 40 minutes within each other. But we only see each other when only death came around.
It's true.
Never
There's a lot of memories.
so how can we see the picture? I mean, now theoretically, how can I ever see the picture of being a family when we weren't even around each other? How can I even respect when I couldn't, my cousin or uncle?
of the grandmas at the house, and they were dementia, and they were, kind of almost catatonic, where they sit on the balcony and stay there
All day.
all day.
Yeah, I had an aunt like that.
And we saw it, so we know what elder is and how you take care of them, and that's learned by example too. That's not learned by, hey, don't open your mouth to the elder, don't do this. Anyway, we don't have. It's harder these days, I think.
Rico, Roberto, you guys want to add anything else
I'm gonna get some
in
water.
your chat?
Larry?
One of the things that I
From
got
your
like
notes?
a few things here, but God knows and sees all.
I remember hearing that.
So if you think you can get away with something, you really might with people, but you can't get away with doing anything in secret. There's no secrets with God. What you do wrong should be taken as a lesson. It doesn't define who you are. So, but it also, you have to learn from it. Otherwise, there's no value to that mistake. If you learn from it, there's value. I put in here, love is the most important. And I stopped at that because it's a commandment, and it's also a command from Jesus, that we're to love one another, and that is the most important command. And also stand up for what you believe in. Everybody's agreeable.
5
on a
minutes,
lot of
Keith.
things. If you believe something's wrong, you should stand up. You know, that's a value that we've kind of lost, trying to be politically correct all the time. You know, I just think that we've weakened ourselves by trying to be politically correct and not standing up for what we believe in. It's something
What
that
people perceive as the truth is so twisted that nobody knows what's up anymore. What's up or down. It's all a mess.
And you know, one thing, the only person I can think right now is my uncle. One of my uncles was almost becoming a pastor at Jehovah's Witness. And I remember just seeing only him and my whole family, really reading the Word. You know, like my parents, my father never went to church, but my mother always took me to church. But then at that age, I wasn't learning anything, you know, because I want to go have fun with my friends, you know, and not pay attention. And it's almost the same thing, like if I felt like when I was in high school, the same way. You know, I just wanted to be with all my friends and not learn anything and just keep playing sports. You know, it's something that I wasn't learning. But, you know, now that you realize it and you know, talking, you know, politically, being correct, it's something that we're learning as we go, and we want better for others, especially better for our kids. You know, like my son's been staying out. You know, I don't know where he's been staying at, and I've been trying to talk to him to tell him, look, you need to talk to me. You need to tell me what's going on. Where are you going? You know, I can't even get that out of him. He just, I'm just hanging out with my friends, and it's 2 female friends. You know, so I don't even know what's going on there. But I'm trying and I'm trying and I'm trying as hard as I can. But he still won't speak up to me about it. But, you know, this is part of, like I said, you know, the not being together with my son. I can't even talk to him. You know, it's really, really, really hard. As much as I want to and try, he just like, you know, is very quiet about it. Don't even want to talk about it. And, you know, and I think it's because he's changing into a little.
Why don't you give him a job with your company?
He has to be 25 and older. He's 23. My insurance will go up. But he has a good job. He you know, he works at Publix.
That would bond you with him.
Yeah.
Like my son and I now talk aviation, and that's I feel like when I come home and he's at home, we bond with that and talk, and then that leads to his interest, and then he opens up to other things, and I have better relationship now with my son than I did when he was in high school. And, you know, I was a soccer mom where I took him to all those activities, but I was never involved like on the training or anything. I just take him there and hey, he's here.
He's on his own.
Yeah, it's just
Bring it in. ¿Qué lo sabe? Yes? Drinking up water? Now we get into discussion questions for day 3. Or session.
Mike, is that where that's supposed to be, like right in front of the tree?
No.
Yeah, it doesn't make you think of Christmas. We need to put it here.
We gotta put it somewhere.
See, this is a man with a clear conscience that can accidentally leave his phone on the table.
No.
Was it recording? I don't know.
No.
You're done with that, right? You're done with that, right?
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, sir.
You got here from work?
Yeah, me too.
This is,
Straight from
guys,
Miami.
oh, anyway. God's unbelievable.
This is a group discussion, you can
Crazy.
share.
No, it's a crazy story. It might not even be interesting. It's only interesting because he's my best friend.
It's not your best.
All right, I got a story.
You're
Is that
killing
okay?
us.
I got a buddy,
You got it.
his name is Doug, okay? He owns this little 26-foot McGregor sailboat kind of thing. The God's been putting on his heart that he should enter this boat into the boat parade, and he wanted to put a big Jesus sign on it, right? I'm like, dude, I don't have time for this. I completely blew the guy off, okay? He's like, no, man, there's something, nobody has the vision. He's getting on mine. He gets in a huge argument with his wife right before the boat parade, and they weren't gonna do it. About 5 hours before the boat parade, he's like, the kids and the wife was like, okay, we'll do it. He's like, what are you kidding? He's an engineer, real cranial kind of guy. He literally busts his butt. He gets like this wood and he puts Jesus's name on it and lights and stuff like that. And just because the compulsion of like following God's kind of word on this thing. So he goes into the boat parade in Palm Beach. It was unbelievable. It was all over the Palm Beach Post and all this. People were coming up to him just like, we loved it and all this. Was that your boat? And he's all over the place. And this was just a self kind of fulfilling thing. Oh, he's literally up at the thing. He's literally up at the docks before this thing's supposed to start trying to step his mast. And that means you raise a mast. And there's people over there drinking. That boat is like crappy. Why even bother entering it into the thing, right? So he's like, these a-holes could freaking help me lift this thing up, right? So he goes, but it's unbelievable. He was like, the crowd just went crazy over this boat that had the sign Jesus on it, right? And so he goes, there's this gala thing of the people that entered in the boat parade. Of course, he didn't win anything, but guess what he won? The raffle. Right? He's like, Jesus can't be stopped, you know what I mean? But this was like this thing just meant so much to him because, nobody else helped him, but he just felt really, he prayed about it earlier in the week and God just put it on him that he was supposed to do this thing. So he kind of halfway did it. He's like, he had to rent a generator and all this other stuff, but he's like thrilled to death by it. Just, you know what I mean? Only God can like touch you in that way. He's trying to explain it to me.
What do we
Pass
want to do?
those
Aha
box
moments for that, or
books down.
jump right into 3?
Rico
Slide
must
them
be
down.
seasick by now.
Alright, little help, push them down.
There you go.
All right.
Do this.
All right, so we're on page 32. This was session 3. Everybody should have watched the video on that, which we already did here. Didn't we watch that here?
Yeah.
Yes. The bar, the guy in the bar.
Yep. Anybody have anything?
Sorry, Rico and Robert, trying to
That
fix
cried
things
out
here
to them
for
on
you.
this?
There we go.
I mean, the question alone is, when does a boy become a man? I mean, I wasn't asked that question till this week. I haven't really thought about it. And just like in that video that we had shown, it seems like we're not the only ones that were asked in such a later age because, they had to stop and think about it, and the wives were chiming in, and, the one that always came to mind for me was when the girl goes, do they ever really? Do they ever really become a man?
I think we tattle between
Oh, yeah.
the two. So.
Well, I mean, that highlights in the last, in session 2, when they talked about, falling back into adolescence and, why we do that. Because, we don't want to accept the responsibilities that we have. It's a lot easier. But, now that everybody kind of got a feel for that video, you want to give like a 1 or 2 liner on, when a boy becomes a man. I'll start off. Mine was, when he's able to put others in front of himself, and accept responsibility. I mean, you can go on and on about it, but I wanted to keep it short. Anybody else want to chime in on that, and then we can dive into the other questions? When does a boy become a man?
I think the exact same as you. When you can give yourself and die to self and give to other. So a young man doesn't do that.
I mean, 2 years ago, it probably would have been when I could drink or when I had sex. And now, since I've been walking this path, that's not really what a man is. So it's funny how, you know, it can totally do a 180 in regards to what you believe in and what you follow in.
Mhm.
Now you really focus in on the core values of a man instead of what the flesh wants and. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Boy becomes a man? Andre? You don't need a book for that question.
When a boy becomes a man?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're asking me for me?
Or just
personally,
question
or
one,
you're saying-
Yeah.
how is manhood defined in our culture
When did
today?
when did you
How
become a
is-
man?
When
Andre.
I become a man, that's
Yeah.
a better question. Let me
Andre,
answer him.
The
Huh?
question is, how is manhood defined in our culture today?
Oh, how's manhood defined in our culture today? Well, from what I see is, you know, when you have money, when you're, you know, rebellious and like, thank you, sexuality, that's really huge. Being a man, slutting around, doing a lot of different things, you know, that's definitely a big definition of it.
Yeah, we're talking about culture, we're not talking necessarily
Biblical.
biblical or
Yeah, that's the culture today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
culture
That's the culture
today.
today,
you know, did you
Sexuality,
get
money.
stinky finger today, right? You
Money,
get stinky finger.
women,
Hey,
the more women you
get a
have,
stinky
money,
finger, you ain't no
having
man,
status,
right?
having position, having, you know, big houses or big toys,
Mhm.
that's what I.
Possession.
And paying for your stuff yourself and
Exactly.
that's a man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like, I think when people
Mhm.
think a man is somebody who can afford to play like a boy, but have the money as a man, but has the money.
His own money.
Like the guy who can continue to be the boy the
Right,
longest is the
right,
biggest
right.
man.
I like
You know what I mean?
I
The
looked at
ones
it a
with
little
more
different.
toys win.
Yeah.
I see that license plate.
What do you-
A bumper sticker.
There we go.
Larry-
Go ahead, Larry.
I put in here, I was having a little bit of different perspective. The male that may or may not lead, work, protect, or be with the family. In a lot of cases today, in our society, the man could take the woman's role. The man could be absent. The man could be supporting or not, could be involved or not. There's no clear definition of manhood today. It's watered down. And in just looking at a lot of people that I know, they fulfill part of what we know in history as manhood, but not all the parts. There's very few men that I even know today that fill all the parts of a true man, if you think about where we came from. You know, think of your great-great-grandfather or somebody back a few years and there was a good leader in a good role or good role model.
Not in all cases, but in many cases.
Yeah, in many cases, yeah. Yep.
Read on.
Thanks, Larry.
Read that.
I think being a man
It's on the next page.
Feel free.
comes down to being able to be your own boss. You can feel like you're a man when you're 6 years old. If you
Question
can
two, read the outline.
be in rebellion
This-
and sneak around and do something you know you're not supposed to do. Or when get to the age where sexual adventures are close enough and you finally find one that works with someone else. Or drinking or drugging, doing stuff that we wanna do regardless of if it's right
Right.
or if it's wrong.
Or if it's gonna hurt somebody else,
We
doesn't
can
matter.
be our own boss, we can make our own decisions, and we can manage our own lives, our own selves.
Hmm.
But that like many people have said, that changed for me too, because I did all those things that God is not pleased for people to do. Even there's probably 4 things that I've done in my life that the Old Testament says I should have been stoned to death.
Well, I shared with you guys last week that my son turned 21, and when he came home from college, his desire was for me to take him to Flanagan's and for him to actually go to the bar and order himself a drink. And we went to Flanagan's as a family, and as we were waiting for our table, I told Lourdes, I'm gonna take Anthony to the bar so he can order his drink. So he's like, you know, he's really anxious that he can order his first drink he feels like a man now, right?
Shirley Temple?
Right? Because they're gonna card him, so they card him. So obviously the girl lady says, all right, yeah, what do you want? And he's, you know, and he asks, well, do you have a menu? And he's like, you know, so he looks over at me and he asks Dad, you know, Dad, what do you suggest? I says, you know, I went soft on him, go do a strawberry daiquiri. So he did a strawberry daiquiri and he really enjoyed it. And he turned over and he says, Dad, this is the first time I actually feel like I'm a real man.
Wow.
This is the first time. I feel like I'm finally a man. In other words, I can now make decisions. You know, and then I use that moment. I use that moment to say, yeah, but understand you're sitting in a place that you don't want to be sitting in. A lot of people choose to sit here to suppress and desensitize the pains and the hurts and the sufferings and the dissolutions in relationships. And if you look around and see some of the body languages, you can see that people are not here like you're here right now, feeling that manhood, first step one. You know, no, I understand that. I understand, and I understand. I know what you're saying, and you say, I know you know what you're saying because you know that you have witnessed and been with me when I've helped a lot of guys that have suffered from alcoholism. He's been in homes where guys are totally wiped out, coming out of the pores, alcohol coming out of the pores. He's witnessed that. So he knows that that's not a healthy environment.
Right.
But he did feel that was just something he wanted to do. And I gave him the fulfillment. You know what? I'm glad he did it with me, and that's somebody else that probably wouldn't have shared the advice and the truth that I shared with him at that moment.
Yeah, and it all went well until the bartender asked you if you wanted your regulars.
So, Keith, go ahead.
All right. Question number 2 from page 32. Think back to the definition of manhood Robert Lewis shared. Which of his 4 points stood out to you and why? So I'm going to read the outline on page 34.
Hey, Keith, just before you moved on the first question, how is culture defined today? It's defined the same way it was defined in the Garden of Eden. It was defined by the devil right away. That's what caused Adam and Eve to fall. It's the same point of view. But we do know that, you know, Adam did overcome, but only halfway, right? Because one of his sons was a learner, while the other one was seeking God. So he lost half of that ability, based on the culture in the Garden of Eden that was presented to him. And that exists today. Yeah. That exists today, it's the same thing. I just was thinking about it.
That's good, thank you.
And he was finishing something and Mike cut him off.
Eric.
Oh, that's all right.
You forgot now.
I like what you said though, because, everything that I thought being a man was when I was growing up, before I had any kind of coaching or inspiration from the Holy Spirit, everything that I thought was a man was dark. And now it's slowly changing where, like, rejoice always. Again, I say rejoice, because he didn't make a mistake. The Holy Spirit wants us to rejoice always in Christ, not in our situations, But all the different commandments now that are so much higher than the 10 Commandments, which is like underneath kindergarten, being a man is finding out what they are, how God wants us to live, and having Him help us implement them into our lives.
Loving your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yeah. And praying for those who.
Do wrong.
Well, remember, it's not that. Jesus changed that later on. It's not loving your neighbor as yourself anymore. It's loving your neighbor as I have loved you, as Jesus loved you, because a lot of us don't love ourselves. And if we were to love our neighbors how we love ourselves, we pour our neighbors.
True that.
That's true.
Go ahead.
All right, so defining manhood is no simple task. Cultures from the time immemorable have set their own standards for moving into manhood. Jewish custom has it occurring at age 13, marked by a bar mitzvah. The American practice seems to be set 18 as the default age, but without any clear event to celebrate the transition, other than voting and signing up for military service. But most men know that the age is not an inherent identifier of manhood. There are plenty of boys who have shave in this world. Plenty of boys who shave in this world, and plenty of youth manning up in tough circumstances. Men need help defining manhood, but where do they go for answers? Imagine that you were suddenly dropped on this planet with no prior understanding or definition of manhood. You begin consuming all you can of television, websites, newspapers, magazines, and movies to learn how to be a man.
And then the 4 points in the bottom.
That's bad.
So at the bottom, what Robert Lewis shared from the acronym REAL, rejects passivity, expects God's greater reward, accepts responsibility, and leads courageously.
Back to the question.
Hmm?
Back to the question now.
What, question 1?
Two.
How do you define manhood?
No, 2.
Think back to the definition of manhood Robert Lewis shared.
Oh,
Which of his 4 points stood out to you and why?
So if anybody just wants to share now, which of these 4 points stands out to any of you guys? Rejects passivity, expects God's greater reward, accepts responsibility, or leads courageously.
They're all important, but I would say leads courageously is a function of a man to lead the family. If you can't be courageous about what you're doing, you're insecure, you're not gonna be able to lead. Your family's not gonna have anywhere to go, except wherever the world takes them.
Yeah. We did those 2 studies, Courageous, and then, which was, what was the name of the book? The movie Courageous, and we did the book, the study. Can't think of the name right now, but it's exactly what Larry just shared. But,
right, failing to lead.
yeah. If you guys have been, if you haven't seen the movie Courageous, I highly suggest that you watch that movie Courageous. It goes along the lines of what Larry just shared.
Is it on Right Now Media?
No,
No.
but it's on like Netflix.
Netflix, maybe.
Oh, okay. Courageous?
I think I've got it on DVD if anyone wants to borrow it.
Yeah, I
I'll
know.
see what's on.
Who hasn't gotten a copy of Courageous for Christmas?
I've never seen it.
Me neither.
Never seen
Great movie.
Neither
Which one?
Fireproof or
Which one?
whatever that.
Courageous.
Yeah.
It was
We
like
did
one
it
of
at
the first
we
Christian
watched it at
movies
Wild
that
at
was
Heart
like actually watched.
one weekend.
We watched a little bit of it.
Yeah, I think
It was
I
good.
I got it at home, if anybody wants to watch it.
The war room is amazing.
So,
See the war room?
anybody else got any other thing besides Larry?
I'd say leads because I'm making different choices in my life today. And God is telling me things, and my nature is to go back into darkness. But I'm leading myself away from the darkness by listening to God and saying, ooh, that's not my first choice, but I'm gonna do that instead. Or, yeah, I knew that. Or, whatever he says, it fits me, and because I wanna be in the light instead of the darkness. So leading courageous, and some of the things that that I'm doing, that probably we're all doing, are like making decisions that are totally selfless and maybe without good reason, like just because of faith. But yeah, leading courageously is a good one.
I got rejects passivity. I find myself sometimes being too passive. I come home, I'm tired. I see something that really needs me to step into, and I don't always step into it. And kind of make it right.
That tends to
through
happen
God's-
when you're in a routine. You get in a routine, this is what I do on Monday, this is what I do on Tuesday.
Right.
If you get into that routine, which I don't think Mike has that routine in his life, he's more of he's busy all the time doing all kinds of things. But if you get stuck in a routine, that's where you're gonna get into a problem like that.
Yeah.
Fall into that more so. I know I have in my life.
It happens when I'm overtired. I mean, that's really shouldn't be an excuse, but that's what when I read this question and answered it, that's what I came back to, that I have to be more conscious when I'm tired to not be passive in my home.
I was meditating today about expects God's greater reward, which allows me, when I really meditate on it and think about it, allows me to be more selfless, more dying to self and give to other, because you have a reassurance that you're gonna go to a place where there's no suffering, no crying, no sickness, and there's a lot to look forward to, and that gives me a calm that then allows me to wait. Got nothing to lose here. Let's do this. Let's do that.
Yeah, and then you have those days right here on earth. When
That
no matter
peace-
what happens, you say,
Where that peace
God
comes,
did.
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
You know, guys, and you guys have heard me say this over and over and over and over about dying to self, turn from your sins, and race towards God's righteousness. And do everything you can within your power, within your means, to do what's right. Because tomorrow is not promised. You've heard me say that. Tomorrow's not promised. A lot of us think that we're going to be alive tomorrow. I'm getting operated next Tuesday. I might not come out of that operations. They're going to give me general anesthesia. They might give me a little too much and I might not come out. I don't know, right? So I'm still trying to always do good, because I don't know when tomorrow. My son calls me last week and he says, my uncle has stage 5 kidney failure. So he's affected. Tomorrow he's going to be on dialysis forever. Okay? Stage 5 kidney failure. 3 days later, unexpectedly, that uncle, his mother, dies in her sleep. My son's grandmother dies in her sleep. There was nothing wrong with her. She just said, I'm going to bed because I kind of feel like the food, looks like the food didn't hit me right. And I have this uncomfortable feeling right here, and I'm just going to go sleep it off. She never woke up. Died. Unexpectedly. And her funerals were, her services weren't ready, and they were asking for donations, GoFundMe to be able to put her to, give her her final resting, because, guys, it's like what 00 says, we have to do what's right. We have to really stop taking every day, we got Steve here. Steve can tell you his whole story of 7 years of battle of cancer with his daughter, when God finally took her home, 19 years old. When she was born, he never dreamed when she was born that at 19 God would call her home. We really have to stop taking our lives for granted. We really do. We're taking this country for granted. We have the freedom to do what we're doing here, to open this Bible and know that we can walk out that door and no one's gonna cut our heads off. Where in other countries, they can't do this. We really take this study and a lot of this, we take a lot for granted. Sorry.
All right.
We got 10 questions, let's move on. What challenges do boys face during their transition to manhood?
What page are you?
Peer pressure.
5.
Oh, you moved down to 5?
Well, we did 3 already.
Yep.
4 is almost the same thing, and let's
Okay.
get into the meat of it.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
What challenges do boys face during their transition to manhood? Sexual pressure?
Peer pressure,
Nowadays.
They said it down there, peer pressure.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, peer pressure,
Peer pressure and girls.
drugs,
They're
sex,
awful
and rock and
sticky.
roll.
It's just, it's 99%.
I don't know if you guys know this, but this week, the movie Christmas, what was it, the Christmas Story was eliminated this year. They didn't play it this year because of the bullying.
No way.
Yes,
Your little what?
Christmas Story. It's been playing since the 60s.
Because of what?
The bullying, because the kid gets bullied in the movie.
No.
Wow.
So this year they couldn't play the
Thank the
Christmas Story.
Democrats.
What?
Yes.
Things are left.
In the movie?
No, I mean, in TV, you can't, they didn't play it this year in TV.
It's more than that. The tongue.
Yeah,
on the-
because that
on the
lamp was
flagpole,
pretty,
that's
that lamp was pretty.
horrifying.
So they.
The what?
The tongue on the,
Shot his eye out.
on the
and
flagpole, getting stuck, that's a horrifying.
Shoot somebody's eye out.
What about
So-
those other movies that are ridiculous, retarded compared to that?
I know, but they're, Keith says it, they're pussifying our children today, our boys.
Exactly.
They don't want our boys to be men anymore, they wanna feminize them.
What about not
It was
only-
okay for those 2 women to kiss in the middle of Main Street during the Thanksgiving family parade, make out in the middle of Thanksgiving parade.
Where was the sniper on that day? huh?
Wow, that's the point, everything's.
Desensitized. I was just talking to my daughter about that, because she goes to Seminole Ridge, and one of the teachers got busted with a student. And she's like, oh, I can't believe that kid's still coming to school. I was like, it's because it's like an everyday event now. Because you guys are so desensitized in regards to stuff like that's 50 years ago, he probably would have been hung or dragged out back. And now it's just something that happens
Oh,
once a
it's
week.
gonna happen again.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's like no big deal, and it's, and she's like, and she was appalled that this girl was at school, she was appalled by the whole thing. And then the fact that this girl would still come to school, and it's like, it's because, it's the norm now.
It starts, I look at, in a way that it starts from the top, even like, I love Trump, but even listening to what he says, could influence any kid to talk the way he talks.
Yeah.
You're right.
There's so many other things, like, you hear, like, I remember sharing a story with my son about the Clinton, Foundation, what they did to Haiti, and he's like, oh, they can do that, and like, they did it, they got away with it, so I truly believe it starts from the top,
Yeah.
and it teaches us.
It starts in our
and then-
homes.
Well, our job, personally, I believe our job is to discover that we are doing wrong and we should be doing right. And obviously, we're not because of the way society has put us in that place.
Yeah, but we can't hold a society accountable for our own actions.
Well, you can't, but these things are happening. Like, you don't even know what's happening in your son's school. When you leave your child, you let your child go.
Right.
You don't have responsibility of your child. Your child has responsibility of themselves. So therefore, if we're not teaching our children, just like what happened with my daughter the other day, that something happened to her in school, and I said, no, we have to teach our daughter.
Yep.
We have to teach our daughter that she cannot do what she did. She has to do it this way, and she has to do it that way. That's plain and simple. But then if we don't do that, like my daughter thought that it was okay to hit this other kid because this other kid saw her hit her. was like, no, you can't do that.
No.
That cannot happen. And if you, as you know, there's the argument with my ex-wife, if you force her to say, yeah, it's okay, you did the right thing, no, that's wrong. It's just plain simple. So we engage that ourselves. We're also learning from others. We're also learning from, even like just the thought of what, I hate to bring it up, but the things that Trump is saying, or the things that he's even doing, it mind boggles me. I'm like, whoa, man, it's our president that does that.
Yeah, you can vote for him, but it's hard to defend
You
him
know what I mean?
sometimes.
So even, even like looking at movies.
So
There's
Rico,
many things.
just to let you guys know, Rico's chiming in, Rico's online with us, and Rico's chiming in, he says, it's our job to educate our children,
That's right.
educate our children and let them know what's right and what's wrong. Okay?
Which, this is pretty much what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is, we're learning from, our kids are learning from TV, video games, and all the rest of the stuff. That's stuff that I learned, and now I'm like looking at back like,
Well, that's what you
gee, I
gotta
remember what I
filter.
was doing.
As a parent, that's your job to filter that.
Well, of
Okay,
course.
so as you say all that stuff, so translate that into a challenge a boy faces.
Challenge it, what?
Challenge, translate that, all what you're saying right now into what and how it would be a challenge for boys.
Question 5, read question 5.
Especially without the help of a father
There you go.
Or a
Absent
mentor.
of father.
or a man of God to
Absent
observe
of,
and
yeah.
watch.
I mean, the peer pressure came to mind, but everybody's talking like this in the first thing, the absence of a father. And now with single moms and, one night stands and baby daddies,
Ken
happiest
shared
homes.
something in our group where he said, hey, when I was growing up, nobody was watching me. I had no oversight. I figured everything out on my own, and I made all my own decisions, and, we all know where that gets us. I did that too.
Yeah.
It's not a good.
But I think that's a part of actually of
Father,
of adolescence too, of
testing
find-
our independence.
yeah, exactly.
Well, well, Steve had a good definition, at least I remember what it was describing between, like, boyhood. And he described, like, boyhood as a time of, like, exploration, but he also threw in there, he used the example of, the Chick-fil-A brothers,
Yeah, Bubba and somebody else.
what's the last name? Jade, whatever. The Chick-fil-A brothers, how they had like a steady influence of boundaries around them, where they were allowed to explore, like, they were allowed to explore like the stores and stuff like that, but they had adult supervision to put boundaries around their exploratory stages.
Safe zone.
That's good.
Safe zone. I think when you become a man, that could be a good definition.
When you're in the scouts, remember somebody was getting that was Cub Scout or Weebelo or their totem ship for carrying a knife. Remember that?
Yeah. And then when
And you have to, tell the safety rules, always give the knife with the blade down, point it away, or I don't remember, you remember some, but
I don't remember all the
once
rules.
you master that, they would give you then the liberty to,
Carry a knife.
yeah. And then you cut yourself, then you're the dummy.
Well, there was
Which happens.
But there was also consequences on that, because you always had to have your card on you.
They can take it away. Yeah.
Well, what they do is they cut the corners off. So when you go to present your card and you got no corners left on you, oh boy, you've been warned
Yeah.
more than 4 times.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's good accountability.
Yeah, accountability and yeah. It's good.
Keith? Number 6, maybe?
Anybody got anything else on 5? Challenges? All right. Why do you think it's important for young men to have mentors in their lives as they mature into manhood?
We need examples.
Give your,
Give your input.
read the question, but give your input.
This goes along with what Vic was saying. If there isn't anybody there and a child has free reign, what that child or boy is gonna learn about manhood is gonna be wrong. And it could affect them for 30, 40 years.
To unlearn it.
Right. So the importance of a mentor or a father or a grandfather or an uncle or a baseball coach. To have someone understand, being that we're men, we know what's going on in the minds of those youngers. We know what a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14, 15, and so on is kind of struggling with. Yeah, things are a little bit different. The struggles are the same, especially when the testosterone's hitting and all these things. I know what my kids struggle with. I know what I pretty much know what they're going through, because I went through the same stuff. And so if my kids or your kids don't have somebody there telling them that when they're gonna go through something and it's normal and it's okay, and this is how you get through it, and this is what God's word says about it. That's the just for me, what I think of a mentor. It's someone that has been through it and is helping somebody else through something. And so my job as a father is to not shield my kids from going through adversity or stop adversity from happening before they go through it, even though I see it, and you guys know, you guys see the stuff that our kids are gonna run up against or run into. I need to let my kids fail in certain areas, especially while they're still at home. So when they're out there and they fail, it's not gonna be as bad. It's not gonna be life-threatening failure.
So they know how to fail
Right.
successfully.
And failing is part of life.
Yeah.
Plus, you have a support group that loves you when you
That's it right
fail,
there. That's right.
and it doesn't feel as bad when you fail and they kick you out of your job or they get you in jail or.
It's not the end of the world, yeah.
Let me twist the question around just a little bit here, just for some of you that might already have older kids. Okay, maybe in their late 20s or 30s. And I'm saying this with all respect and with a lot of sensitivity for transparency. Because a lot of us maybe never had a mentor growing up ourselves, or we had the wrong mentor growing up. My dad's my hero.
Part-time mentor.
My dad's my hero, but I had a lot of wrong mentors growing up because I was taught that in order to be a man, you had to be with many, many women. And the more women I was with, the more men I became. And what that did to me as an adult and into my marriage, I became a professional adulterer, unfaithful man to my wife for 15 years. Okay? So obviously I had the wrong mentors. It wasn't until my kids were 15 years old, my two oldest kids that were 15 years old, that I started mentoring them the correct way, which was almost too late. My youngest one at 21, he's 21 now, that one I started mentoring at age 6. So the question I'm putting out to you guys here is, as he's saying here, they're saying here, what do you think about the importance of a young man having the mentors in their lives as they mature into manhood? Is there any of you in here that feel that you personally feel that you were not mentored properly as you were growing up? And in so, do you feel that that affected you, how you are mentoring your children now, or you might have missed mentoring those kids that are adults now, that now maybe are struggling in life because you feel you failed them because you weren't properly mentored? I don't know if that made any sense.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably all of us, unless somebody had a godly man who was feeding into them as a child and saying,
Yeah.
this is how God wants you to live. This is the way God is, and he says, I'm holy, you be holy too. If you had somebody like that, and, I mean, I don't know that we did, but,
Well,
I bet if we-
Rico,
if we
Rico had
asked for Hannah-
Rico shared a few weeks back that he had a good godly mentor in his life.
Yeah, but I also had peer pressure, and you know what I'm saying, you trying to be cool with your friends, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I did go to church, but it wasn't sinking in, you know what I'm saying?
So how do you feel that affected?
But
Go ahead.
he did, put the seed, you know what I'm saying? It took years later, and then I went, oh, then I remember my dad's words, oh, he did say that. He said, hey, if I do this, God's not gonna bless you, you know, stuff like that. That when you're a teenager, it's
Right.
not registering. You hear it, but.
So how do you
it's
feel
not-
that transition into your mentoring your children, Eddie and Eric?
Oh, definitely, that helped me teach them the same thing, but I feel the same way, that they know about it. Like, if you ask them anything, I took them to Christ Fellowship till our divorce. And you ask them anything and they know. And they go,
And I've had
"You know
conversations
this?" They
with
go, "Oh,
Eddie,
yeah,
and
oh,
Eddie
yeah, God,
knows.
I know that, I know. They know. Now, do they wanna come to church all the time? No.
Do they want to accept it?
Right. Is it sinking
But it's
in?
there.
Yeah, but you're
It's
doing
there.
this.
The seed
Yeah.
is there, right, and we got the roots. Maybe it'll happen just like with me, where I deviated and then I.
Is there anybody in this table with regrets, that have regrets now? Because this is critical right now, that have regrets now, that they weren't mentored properly and feel that they've failed their children now, or feel as a failure now?
I absolutely do. My 21-year-old son, we tried to raise him up in a Christian environment, but my behavior, you know, from the time he was born, my behavior was probably 10 times better than it was before I got married. But I didn't set that example for him the way he should have been seen. I did spend a lot of quality time with him, taught him how to be a man, how I perceived it, but left out all the important stuff.
Okay? You raise your hand too, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty lucky so far, but I definitely feel like it wasn't my investment in my kids that are kind of where they're doing okay.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Your daughter's going to,
Yeah, they're doing great.
they're doing great. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
I
it's
think-
amazing.
But this
They're
is,
doing God's
but
grace.
let him share, let him
My
share.
wife's influencing.
He's got some
But you still
reservation.
have a part of it.
Yeah, but
I mean,
you know,
But
There's a
you
regret
see,
part.
you see the potential on certain aspects of their life that they could have been better if you were.
yeah, exactly.
That's how I see it too.
Exactly.
Okay?
You know, you can say, oh, your son is a pilot, your daughter graduated from college.
Right.
But I see things that I see that they could be doing much better if I was
If it was
Yes.
a better
a
Good.
better example.
Good,
better-
this is what I wanna hear, this is what I wanna hear. Who else?
Well, I think everybody can say that.
No, but I wanna hear, I don't wanna see, I don't want, us answering for everybody. I wanna hear where everybody's heart is right now.
Okay, well, I believe that I could have done a better job, but I can only have the tools that my dad gave me.
Okay? All right, you're
Can't,
right,
you know.
good.
And there's.
Who else?
There's some things that I'm just learning now that the only thing that I probably, which I am doing, is trying to set the example of leading, now, even though they don't accept it, but I still gonna do it, cause even like, there's some days my son will call me, he says, today's Tuesday, ain't you going to church? Do you want me to pick up Adriana? So that's a thought that
There
I'm
you go.
giving
This is
him.
where I'm going at. This is
You
where,
know,
this is where,
that
this
he
is where I wanna go.
knows that, all right, I'm putting all my efforts to do whatever it takes to be here this Tuesday. You know, so he knows that, so that sometimes he says, you know, Dad, do you want me to pick up Adriana for you today, or, you know, whatever the case is. Or even on Sundays when I go to church and I have Adriana don't wanna go, he's always like fitting in, but I always, you know, ask him to come, but, you know, like I said, it's his choice. I can't force my son to do something, but the only thing I can do is just keep leading by example, that's all.
All right, nice, thanks, Victor. Who else? This is the moment to be transparent, guys, right now. This is where I'm going with this, is very critical. Anybody else?
I think,
Chuck?
well, I mean, my stepson, Steven, when fault or whatever, but looking back, I realized that if I would have lived rightly, it might have overspilled onto his relationship with his mother even more than, much more than it did. And consequently, he might not have got involved with the way he chose to go
And how long you and Caroline been together?
since '99.
So 21 years, almost 20 years. Wow. And thank you for that transparency, because you're right. You're absolutely 100% right. Who else? So this is where I'm going with this, guys. We serve a God that He knows all of our stories. He knows all of our pains. And He knows all of our struggles. And He knows the pains that our own children are going through right now, because we've caused wounds in our children. This is something that we talk about in Wild at Heart. Our parents, like Gary said, he only knows as much as his dad taught him. Well, someone put a wound in his dad's life, which in turn has wounded Gary, which in turn Gary has wounded his children.
Yep.
But we have a Heavenly Father that's never wounded us, that lived sacrificially for us. And all He wants is for us to live sacrificially for Him, because we will never, ever, 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 ever be perfect. But if we put the lamp on our feet, His lamp, and ask Him to light our path, and we start walking the ways of righteousness to the best, just like in that movie, the football movie,
Facing the Giants?
Facing the Giants. Just be your very best. Your very best. Right? When he told him, he put him on his back, right? You all saw that movie, Facing the Giants, put him on his back, says, just give me your very best. And he says, are you sure? He told him that 3 times. Are you going to give me your very best? He goes, yes, coach. Are you going to give me your very best? Coach, yes, I am. Are you going to give me your very best? And the kid said, yes. All right, so we're going to do the bear crawl now.
Rock.
And he goes, but I want you to do it blindfolded. And as he's crawling,
With the guy on his back.
with the guy on his back, as he tells him, and you're going to do it with Jeremy on your back. And the guy says, what, coach? And he told them,
To the 50.
you're going to crawl to the 50-yard line. And as he's going, he passes the 50. He doesn't realize he passes the 50. And he's crying and he goes, your very best. Don't you quit on me. Don't you quit on me. Your very best. Your very best. And when he actually gets to the end zone and he takes off and he says, look, 100 yards. Your very best. And he took off his blindfold off this kid. And he says, those guys back there, that team relies on you. Your kids rely on you. Your wives rely on you. Your parents, your siblings. When I had the blessed opportunity to marry my nephew in California, and I was up there preaching the gospel, the truth of what God's design was of marriage, I felt like I was in heaven. And God and all His angels were around me, and we were just preaching the truth to all of these lost souls. And I had the opportunity to marry my nephew with this 25-minute sermon of God's beauty of design of marriage. That none of them had ever heard it like that, of what marriage was supposed to be like. That throughout the night of the reception party, many people came around me and said, I never heard it like that. I never heard it like that. Everything is like, marry the bride, marry the groom, and voila, and go have sex and have a good time. I share what the truth was, you know? So what I'm saying to you guys, that example that I gave my nephew, my brothers, and my siblings, and all the adults that were there, they saw a different Mike from 20 years ago. And this is the opportunity that each of you guys have today, that your children, you say your son's 20 years old. Well, you know what? He can see this transition 15 years down the road that you've changed, that you become this new person, right? And we all have that opportunity to make those changes. We just have to choose. We have to choose. And a lot of times those choices are gonna rub and ruffle some feathers. And some people are not gonna like it. And it is what it is. As long as you're speaking truth, it is what it is. You will never have any regrets, as long as you're speaking truth. Just make sure you're speaking truth, because it'll come back and bite you.
In love.
Yeah.
Gotta speak truth in love.
So, we got 5 more minutes.
My mission is to break the curse.
There you go.
All
Nice.
curses, if we wanna make it that big of an issue, let's break the curse.
Sir,
Stay on that track, we'll be fine.
I'm really thankful to be here tonight.
We're glad you came, because you brought pizza.
well, Chuck doesn't get to visit with us because he lives in New Jersey. He lives in New Jersey, right? Jersey, where you guys live?
From Jersey, what accent?
What town?
It's the crossroads of America.
Some of us aren't where we need to be, just give us the town.
Palisade Park, Fort Lee, down the block from the bridge. 1 mile from the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Patterson, New Jersey.
Patterson is, 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
So we had the blessing to have Chuck here, and Andres, he's going back to Haiti, and we had the blessing of having him here tonight. All right, here we go. Keep go.
Going back? When?
Don't lie,
Tomorrow I'm
don't
in
lie.
Nashville. Right after that, 3 days later, I'm gonna be in Haiti for probably 3 weeks to a month. And I'm gonna go back again, and come back. Yeah, man.
You gotta tell us,
Huh?
I'll
Oh, yeah, I mean, but I do plan on sending you guys more pics, so it's just that, through my journey right now that I'm still journeying through, but just going to Haiti and just, fellowshipping out there and just living a whole brand new life, man. I mean, church, spirituality, everything is just on a whole different level, and I really love it. Plus, this guy happens to be out there too. So,
we have
fish
fun.
and fish together.
All right, so question 7, do any of you have any patriarchs in your life?
Explain patriarch, because maybe somebody might not know what it means.
Patriarch is like a step beyond a mentor that's kind of been there, done that, and can kind of reach down and help others.
It's a mentor.
Come on, then you give it the
Step above,
definition.
step above.
Smart guy.
What's that?
Patriarch's like a step above.
Right. Right.
He's
When
elder.
when I think of,
He's
well,
older.
that's my definition, but patriarch is the one that keeps the group together. Like the patriarch of men's group is Mike, the patriarch of my family, it was my uncle, the patriarch, so it's like a strong,
Where the other mentors look up to them.
right.
There you go, that's a good.
So your
definition.
uncle-
Good definition.
So your uncle, had a positive effect on your life as a patriarch?
Negative.
A negative effect?
Yeah, more woman, more men. That's how we define manhood.
Yeah, thinking about that question for myself, I honestly think you guys have always been that to me since I started coming here, some 5 years ago. I'm hearing you all talk about, which is amazing, talking about being fathers and how you guys have made those mistakes. I'm not there yet, I'm not a father, but I've been blessed to be amongst you guys, so I don't end up wounding my own children because I don't have children yet. But if we back up, when I was transitioning from boyhood to manhood, I really went through that process really when I, met true manhood. I mean, in Christ, when I walked into mosque, probably over 5 years ago, because before that, I didn't have anybody. It was me out in the forest, doing it whatever. I was hanging out with, you know, gangster crazy, motorcycle bikers, doing all sorts of things. And when I met you guys, it made me question everything about my life. My dad was, you know, there was 9 of us. My dad was a provider. You know, he just provided. He kept the house together. That was all he did. But there was never a "I love you, son," sit me down and teach me about manhood. But when I came here through Mas, I'm learning. Wow, when you marry a woman, there's, you know, protecting her, and there's her being your princess and loving on her and honoring her. And then there's when you have children. Like my dad had taught me, you know, just like Gary was saying, you know, what they input in you, what they give you is all you know to give.
Right.
So I would have went through that same line my daddy went. My pride before Mas was that, you know, even though dad passed away, I know I'm gonna be able to provide for my kids. I've gone to college, I got a college degree, I'll have a professional job, I'll be able to feed them and have a house. I ain't gotta worry about that anymore. My dad would be so proud of me right now because I went to school, I did my thing, I was top of my class, I'm great. But it's so much more than that, you know what I mean? So for me, like being with you guys, I'm challenged every time I'm here to live up to this new standard of spirituality of what it means to be a man, a husband. But I'm really blessed because I have not wounded any children, any sons or daughters yet, because I don't have any yet. But now I know better being amongst you guys. So, you know, so you guys have truly been real mentors that have changed my life. But prior to you guys, when I walked in here at 31 years old, I never really had anybody at all. Except for I would sit there and hear the preacher man talk about it's evil, don't have sex, and don't do this and that. I feel bad during the message and then go right back home and then be like, oh man, this chick is about to send you a picture right now. Yeah, man.
We got a couple minutes, guys, so let's just go into our announcements, and then we'll close in prayer. Sunday, Steve, want to share what we got going on Sunday, 9 o'clock? Share a little bit what we're doing. We already got all the materials.
9 a.m. or 9
I think we shared, 9 a.m.
Okay.
That Mary is, she's a widow who lost her son.
The fence?
Yeah, the fence.
So we've got the materials lined up, you know, just some helping hands, 9 to noon or something, maybe a little longer depending on.
The more guys that show up, the quicker we'll get done, so.
Where's that location at?
Yeah, what's the address?
What are you doing? I'm gonna look it up.
Putting up a fence,
Is that
just
Loxahatchee?
one, 200 feet of
Can you
fence.
send a text with the
Yeah, we'll put it on
address
Facebook,
and
on WhatsApp, and we'll text you guys.
tools? You got hole diggers
Everything. We got all the tools and
Just
all
need
the
bodies.
materials and everything.
Is that out in Loxahatchee?
Just show yourself with gloves and-
Just drop it in the hole.
Uh,
What are you doing?
Bottle of water.
Yeah,
Safety
just
glasses.
drop the cement.
Yeah, he's
Doing
got
gravel
nail guns,
around the pipe, or you put it in
levels,
quickcrete or something?
strings.
It's just quick.
Okay.
It's just 4 poles, a couple gates, about 200 feet of fence. There's 16,
Razor
16
wire.
foot.
Dead man's.
So nobody needs to bring any tools. All the tools will be there, all the materials there. All we just need is everybody, whoever can show up at 9 o'clock, show up at 9 o'clock.
9.
There'll be something for everybody to do, even if it's to start to grill.
Are you showing up at 9 American time or 9 Cuban time?
No.
No, Cuban time, it's always Cuban time. When it's weekend,
I'll
it's
come around
Cuban
lunchtime.
time.
Not me, because I'm always on time.
There's spray painting, there's nailing, there's placing, there's.
Yeah, 'cause she wants the fence painted, so we're gonna paint the fence too.
Anybody
My
got?
goodness.
Wireland.
So you're an
there's
outlier,
many Things to do.
'cause
It's
you're
just a
always on
matter of
time.
The more hands, the easier
Yeah.
it gets to have the.
Ma'am,
I hate being late.
I know a lot of Cubans.
I hate being late.
Anybody around that area?
I learned to be on time in the military.
Yeah,
What's that?
15 minutes earlier late.
exactly, if you're not early.
I used to
No,
work
Len's in
in
West
a
Palm.
briefing
I'm in
room.
Jupiter.
Ken,
They close the door like
Ken's close to your house.
and people there were like, wow, you know, I pride myself on that. I had it like time to the minute, you know.
Come get it.
Okay. So yeah, you're close, you're 5 minutes from his house. All right, so that's this Sunday. We invited the ladies to come so they can, hang out with us too, so the ladies are welcome to
If
come.
The girls are coming, then my wife, because she would go to church. Actually, my nephews are coming over, so she's probably gonna go to
No, no, you know, listen, there's no pressure, this is not, this is not.
You're not gonna get a demerit if you can't make it.
Look, I'm really counting on
Listen,
this to
if
get
it's
me into
just-
heaven, so.
Even if it takes. It's not, we're gonna wind up,
I need
I'm
as many
gonna
points as I
provide the
can get.
right amount, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's too many, he's gonna
You sound like
provide.
you.
need to call some Boy
I
Scouts.
think you have a Christmas party coming up.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. December 15th, I sent the Evite out. Everybody should have got it. If you didn't get it, let me know, so I can make sure that you're on there, but everybody should be on there on the Evite. December 15th at my house is the Moth and Light Christmas Party. It's a potluck, so it's from 5 to 9. There'll be a white elephant gift exchange. So it's a $10 minimum to participate. There's no maximum, so if you want to be splendid and buy a table saw, I'll make sure that I steal that at least 3 times. So yeah, it's a white elephant gift exchange, so it's a $10 minimum. If you have any children under the age of 10, we ask you to purchase them a gift, and the little ones will open up their gifts before the adults
the
start
age of
the
what?
game. They're under the age of 10.
Oh.
So from 10 up, the kids will be able to participate with the adults on the white elephant gift exchange. All right, so again, it's a potluck. The items to bring is on the list. And you can bring anything else other than what's on that list if you want to. And also, we encourage you to invite people. These are the best opportunities for us to fellowship, especially to non-believers. I was sharing this with Steve the other day because we were talking about a couple that he's been trying to help. And I said to him, just tell him that you're inviting him to a Christmas party. Don't tell him it's a Christian Christmas party or a moth-like Christmas party. Just tell him that you're inviting him for dinner to a Christmas party, period. And then let the Holy Spirit move when that person arrives to something that they're just like, wow, I've never been to a Christmas party like this before.
Everybody's sober.
Yeah.
Hey, hopefully he'll be better than that guy that went that year. He
Oh
was
my God,
cursing,
remember that?
he was drunk and cursing. Remember that guy?
That was
I don't know who brought him. Who brought him?
that was somebody that was
Okay, I might have said X.
like we said, actually.
Remember that guy? Remember that guy?
But listen, there was a positive to that.
I know.
There was a positive to it. The guy was brought up by, like we said, invite someone, and they invited him.
I think it was Rick.
And the guy was an alcoholic, and he was drunk. He showed up drunk. But you know what? He hugged me at the end of the night. He was like one of the last ones to leave, and he says, "I had never met such loving people in my life." He was drunk. Alcohol. He was reeking alcohol. He was so bad. But he hugged me and he said, "I never
Funny
met
when you're
such loving
drinking,
people."
that doesn't bother you.
They didn't judge me. Nobody was judging me. Grego was judging because he still remembered him.
No, because we were all talking about it. It was funny.
But he felt loved.
No, I wasn't joking. I was laughing because.
But he felt loved.
Everybody's like,
But
it's
so
a
yeah,
family
just
Christmas party,
take
so-
advantage of the opportunity to bring people. Just don't clog my toilet, guys, please. Use the restroom.
Still need a lot of
Cover
stuff.
charge for a septic,
Sounds like a challenge, Mike.
Stick to the cheese.
Better get that porta john out there.
If you got family plans, don't, just call Mike. Call Mike, hey, how you doing, bodies? I got 6, I got 7. Oh, don't worry about it, Don't be burdened with it. If you got plans, you got plans.
No, bring him, bro. I need everybody. I got bad knees, bro. I need everybody there.
Call Mike, and Mike could tell us, hey, we got 6 bodies here, we can figure this out, we got 3, 4 bodies. It's really just, it can be the leveler, somebody else nailing it, doing this, it's just that it makes it quicker.
All right, so looking forward to it. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, I'm having surgery next Tuesday, guys, so if you can please lift me up in your prayers.
Is it the other knee?
My other knee. The one that I had surgery on is about 95% healed. That's the good one. I
And
can't
also,
deal with the other one.
Roberto fell Sunday.
Yeah, Roberto, he fell Sunday. Chase, go ahead.
Who's Roberto?
Roberto Vargas, he started coming to the group.
Oh, the young kid.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
from PSL?
He chasing his kids around with the water gun. He slipped and fell and landed on his back.
Oh.
Went to the chiropractor for the first time, but he's It's not doing good, so
So he's on right now with us, so we're gonna lift him up in prayer.
Everybody did their accountability check?
Yeah. Hey, everybody made their calls this week?
No.
Mine even came over to my house.
I dropped the ball. Somebody dropped the ball too on me.
nobody had me.
Yeah, I did. I texted you.
Oh, you had me?
He dropped the ball on
He
you?
dropped the ball.
So he was supposed to call you?
Yeah.
Well, what's up?
He said that you showed up.
But I gotta tell him anyway.
Alright, let's,
I feel better.
We're already
I dropped
6
the ball on
minutes
him.
over.
alright, cool.
I dropped the ball on him. I didn't call him.
Okay, alright, so just keep working on it, guys, and just keep working on it, and we'll do better this week, okay? Alright, thank you, Heavenly Father, for another great week and this lesson, and we just pray, Lord, that this week, everybody would be given the provisions, Lord, that you would favor them this week to make time to go over each of their day's notes and fill in all the blanks, Lord, that you would speak on a daily basis with them, Lord, that they would be able to find the time to go over their homework, Lord, and watch the video and just be encouraged to join us next week again, Lord. Thank you for the opportunity for us to gather tonight, for the light, the ladies to gather tonight, Lord. And we pray also for those that are traveling, that you would give them safe travels. We pray for Julio as he's catching up on some end of year classroom work that he had deadlines on, and he wasn't able to join us tonight, Lord. But that we pray that you would just give him the opportunity to finish that work. Yes. Also, we pray for Rico, as he wasn't feeling well today and he wasn't able to join us, as he has a flu and he's fighting that, Lord, that you would make him feel better and favor him on that. And also for Roberto, that you would strengthen his body, and that whatever situation might have happened there, Lord, that it would correct itself and there would be nothing serious, Lord. Yes. Thank you again for this week, for the opportunities, and to meet with you again, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Who I'm supposed to call? No, anybody?
No, because you weren't here, you didn't pick a name.
You didn't
There's
pick one.
3 names left in that.
I called Julio.
Good night, guys online. Roberto, Rico, good night, bro.
Somebody take the pizza.
Max called me.
All right, who's got the other blank?
What am I supposed to be accountable on this?
You got a blank book?
Drew or